Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey.
Good day, and welcome to Better Living on News Talk 1160. This is Kimberly Parker standing in for Jeannie Pete, your regular host. Jeannie, hope you're feeling better soon. Blessings to you. To give you a little history, I was with Homestead Hospice 5 years ago when we began this journey and was instrumental in bringing this radio program to you, and hope it's a great resource because that is what we are about here at Homestead Hope Foundation. Our mission is providing resources and services to our seniors and their families. I recently returned as Executive Director of Homestead Hope Foundation. I'm so happy to be back. I want to give a special thanks to our many sponsors, one of which is News Talk 1160. Thank you. And a special thanks to our gold sponsors, Zachary Clemens of Solutions Medical Transport and John Carr of Palliative Pharmacy Solutions. They make it possible for us to be here, and it's always a good day when we can help a human being. So let's introduce our guest today, Mr. Eric Burkard. He is the volunteer president of Georgia chapter of the American Parkinson Disease Association. Good day, Eric.
Good day, Kimberly, and thank you for inviting me on your program this morning.
So happy you are here. So tell me a little bit about how did you become the volunteer president of the Georgia chapter?
Well, we are an all-volunteer board. We do have a part-time staffer on our payroll, but we are all volunteers. And I got involved mostly just through my network of friends and professionals about 5 years ago. The former president of the association, Ms. Anna Marie Schwarzkopf, invited me to participate in the association. And I do have a close link with Parkinson's, a close family member who has the disease. And I'm fairly familiar with Parkinson's and some of the movement disorders. And I offered to help out as a volunteer and started fundraising and other activities and so forth, and just sort of worked my way through the organization. And I always say I made the mistake of coming to all the meetings because now I'm president and have been for the last 2 years, but it's a pleasure to do it.
Well, that's wonderful. So how could someone get involved with the Parkinson Association diseases?
Well, it really depends on what people's interest is. I think we always have room for people who want to volunteer. Mostly we try to get people involved in the different activities that we sponsor and help fund. And there are many.
Wonderful.
And so people who are maybe recently diagnosed with Parkinson's are looking for all kinds of answers. And we want to be that local resource here to help people, to get them directed to the right doctors and to the right support groups and activities that will be beneficial to them and their families. So we certainly accept volunteers. We've got lots of fundraising to do because we are a fundraising organization. So we are always looking for people to help out, and we have many different types of events. But I would say mostly we're here. We've got a twofold mission, if you will. One is to ease the burden, find the cure. Now, we are the Georgia chapter of a national organization called the American Parkinson Disease Association. It is the oldest and the largest of the grassroots Parkinson's organizations and has been around for over 50 years. So what we do here locally is, of course, we raise funds to help the national office, and a lot of that money, of course, goes to research and then other patient-centered programs. But we do have money here locally that we use to fund different initiatives and activities, and we do that through a network of what we call agency partners, whether it's the Alzheimer's Association or the different senior services organizations around Metro Atlanta mostly, okay? So I guess to answer your question is that there are a couple different ways to get involved. Mostly we try to get people involved who are affected by the disease, maybe have a family member, and they're trying to figure out, what do I need to do?
So how can they find out about the American Parkinson Disease Association? Is there a phone number, a website?
Well, there are a couple of things. We still have some billboards around the city, and you may see every once in a while a billboard that says, my dad has Parkinson's, or my mom has Parkinson's, and there's a number up there. But I will give you a telephone number, and this is our general number, and that is 404-325-2020. I'll repeat, 404-325-2020. So,
and the website
yes.
is, and we'll repeat this again at the end of the program, and what is the website that they could go and find the most resources or find out how they could get involved with your association, because there are so many out there that suffer from this disease, and there are so many that go undiagnosed. So tell me a little more, what is your website?
Sure. So the website is APDA Georgia, and APDA stands for, of course, American Parkinson Disease Association. So it's apdageorgia.org. Now, a lot of people will get on the internet and they'll just type in Parkinson's, and that's fine. But it will be confusing because there are a couple different organizations out there. There's probably 3 or 4 principal organizations out there. We are the only organization that has a local board of directors. And as far as I know, the only Parkinson's organization that has an information and referral center.
Wonderful. So when you say an information and referral center, the information is about the disease, and referral for doctors, for services. What would someone call or inquire about on your website to get a referral?
Sure. For the Information and Referral Center is basically helping people who maybe have been diagnosed with the disease or a family member, and they want to find out about the disease. They want to know how it's managed and as much information as they can. And many times they're looking for a doctor or a support group.
Correct.
Right? So the Information Referral Center will hopefully direct them to those specialized resources that they need. And when it comes to Parkinson's, we always like to direct people to a neurologist who specializes in movement disorder diseases.
Great.
So,
and I understand there's a very good facility near Emory.
Emory has a department of neurology and a specific department of movement disorders. And there are 8 or 9 doctors who specialize in that. And there are probably another 30 doctors who are involved in research of some kind. So,
are there other facilities here in the Atlanta area that provide that? Well,
the Emory has the movement disorder specialty in their School of Medicine, and that's the only one that I'm aware of that specializes in movement disorders. However, there are many neurologists in Metro Atlanta who do specialize in Parkinson's and other movement disorders, and sometimes that is a big plus for people who may not be able to get down to Emory, and people who are living in way north of Atlanta or east or west and so forth and cannot easily get to the center. We do like to direct people to those movement disorder specialists, though. And
you have many of these doctors listed on your website, because what I know is that unless you go to a specialist, you might not get correctly diagnosed.
That is often the case, yes. People typically start as they see their family doctor, and their family doctor says, well, I think you need to see a neurologist. And then that person sees the neurologist. And sadly, some of the neurologists I've seen have said, well, you have Parkinson's, you need to take these medicines and come back and see us in 6 months. Well, there are many, many things that patient and his or her family need to know about the disease, and not just come back in 6 months. So I think it's real important that the families do get involved with the disease, because it will help them understand why that person with Parkinson's, or as we call a PWP, may behave or may act or move the way he or she does.
So we want to encourage you, if you have Parkinson's or believe that you may, please discuss this with your family, because as you go down this road and you change, you're going to need their support and help. And if they do not understand what's going on, they're not going to be able to. So don't be shy. Don't worry about not being accepted by your family. We cannot worry about what they think. You need them.
And not only that, Kimberly, we really encourage people to get involved early and be proactive, because the earlier the intervention and the attention, the better the outcome. So people who have some let's say, hint or idea that they may have something going on often don't see a doctor, because who wants to hear this news, right?
Correct.
But once it's diagnosed, it's real important to get some early help, and especially from specialists. There are many medicines to treat the disease, and in fact, there's even a surgical procedure to treat some people with the disease. So there are many different options out there, and people with Parkinson's can live a very long and fruitful life. But the key is the early intervention, and the earlier people can be seen and treated, the better the outcome, and we've seen that all the time.
Right. So, again, don't be scared or embarrassed. You need to have a close friend or family member to know what you're going through, to be there, to be your support with these groups. And there are many support groups in the area, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And they would find those also on your website?
Absolutely, through the website, apdageorgia.org, and you'll find a tab at the top that says support groups, and they're located all throughout the city. And one thing I think is also very important to mention, it's not just the person with Parkinson's who we recommend get involved in a support group. It's the caregivers as well.
Right, great. And when you mentioned that there are, you have partners and agencies in the Atlanta area, who would those be? Or are those also listed? Can you name some of them?
Sure, I'll be glad to.
Okay.
You know, we are really a fundraising organization, so we do not administer these programs ourselves. We are a all-volunteer board, and we don't have the staff to manage that. So we work with well-known agency partners and names that people are familiar with, such as the Alzheimer's Association and Senior Services of North Fulton, and we're also funding exercise programs. A lot of people don't know that one of the most efficient and cost-effective treatments for Parkinson's is exercise, and we fund programs that allow people to exercise anywhere from chair-seated activities up to the most vigorous boxing training activities. So everything in between. So
wow.
We fund a lot of these exercise programs, and one of the foundations that we also fund that manages this very, very well is a foundation called PD Gladiators. So PD standing for Parkinson's disease, called PD Gladiators. So we're always looking for those organizations that have a far reach and serve our mission of easing the burden for a lot of people. And so easing the burden is not just caregiver respite or some financial assistance, because we don't have a lot of financial assistance, but we can help ease that burden through our exercise programs, which tend to be really great ways to manage the symptoms.
Right. So what that tells us, even if we have no symptoms, not only for our bones, for our mental health, we need to be out there exercising. So
everyone,
we've got to get on it. All right. So Eric, you've talked a little bit about easing the burden, finding the cure. So your fundraisers, does some of those funds go into research to help finding the cure? What are your fundraisers? What do they support?
Well, as I said, we are the Georgia chapter of this national organization, mm-hmm. and so we are one 501c3, and that's headquartered in New York City. We work mm-hmm. very closely with them for support of all types. And our funds are, as I said earlier, they They go to our head office, but we do keep funds. We do have funds available here for the local, what I call patient-centered programs. So funds that go up to our head office will definitely go to fund research, because that's not something that we do here. We don't vet those research projects and scientists and so forth. That's done at the national level. But we do have money here locally that we like to direct to those patient-centered programs.
So what are some of the patient-centered programs?
Well, and these were things we talked about just a minute ago. We have a big interest in making sure that people with Parkinson's get out and get some type of exercise. So any program that's related to exercise is worthy, for us to look at. We have a caregiver respite program through the Alzheimer's Association, and then we have Senior Services of North Fulton, for example, which offers a number of different resources for people with Parkinson's. And those resources and that assistance can be caregiver respite. It could be Meals on Wheels, and it could be medical transportation. So again, these are programs that we do not manage. We rely on our agency partners to manage those for us.
Great. And so the caregiver respite program, tell me a little more about that. How does that work? Who manages that?
Well, it's done through the different agencies, and that is real. And when we say caregiver respite, that is giving that caregiver or care partner, sometimes we like to say, a rest, because caregiving is the most difficult job anyone will ever do. And we realize that. And people who are taking care of persons with Parkinson's have quite a burden on their shoulders. It's physical, it's emotional, and often it's financial, right? But what caregiver respite means is having someone come in for that unpaid caregiver, that spouse or that child and so forth, and just taking over maybe for a day, giving them a break. And a day may not sound like a lot if it's just one day a month, but it's an incredible break and rest that caregiver needs to re-energize, to charge those batteries to get back to the task the next day, because the wear down on the caregiver is just tremendous. And we've seen cases where caregivers have died before their loved ones, yes, suffering from the disease.
We see that often in the hospice world. Also, it's very draining. It's a hardship on these families, and it is important to give our caregivers whatever support and time off that we can possibly give them. And until you've done that job, I don't think you understand. It's very difficult. And we have our nurses and our CNAs out there, and of course we offer respite for some of our patients, and once they are hospice appropriate, then they will be offered the respite that we can offer in the hospice also. So tell me, Eric, a little more about your fundraisers coming up that are going to support this great cause.
Well, we do a couple big events throughout the year. The first is in the spring, and that is a golf tournament. And that golf tournament is coming up on May 4th. And we've been doing this for about 10 years now. And the golf tournament will be May 4th at Smoke Rise Country Club in Stone Mountain. One of our big supporters at Smoke Rise Country Club is a man named Bill Pender. And Bill Pender has had Parkinson's for probably over 20 years. Wow. And he's one of our biggest supporters and helps us organize this tournament each year. And we are always looking for corporate sponsors, people who have an interest in working with people with Parkinson's, and whether they are home care agencies or assisted livings or even hospice. We certainly encourage them to get involved because it's great exposure and it's for a great cause. Our title sponsor this year and last year is Liberty Mutual. And Liberty Mutual, part of the Liberty Mutual Invitational, they have come in and offer just really a fantastic package of goodies and things for the golfers. It's individual entry for the tournament is $175, but the goodie bag alone are over $250. So,
wow.
Plus we feed all the golfers breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, drinks along the way. It's a great outing. It'll be Monday, May 4th. Incidentally, the May 4th, the International Star Wars Day. I don't know if you know about that. Have you ever heard of that? Turns out that the Star Wars...
I have a close friend and family member that are Star Wars buffs. We have a lot of Star Wars in our house.
Right, and all these fans, they greet each other on the day, and you know what they say, of course, right? You know what their greeting is to each other.
Greeting?
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you. Well, that's new to me, but I will remember that on May the 4th. I just want to know on May the 4th, could I just come ride in the cart? Maybe I should, if they're giving all those goodies away, that sounds like a fun day. What are your sponsorship levels there?
Well, our typical sponsorship level for an event like this is a $1,500 sponsorship, which buys that person or company a foursome and a lot of exposure on our website and in all of our promotional materials.
Okay.
And the easiest way to sign up as an individual or as a sponsor will be just to going to the website, apdageorgia.org. You'll see it. It's on the front page. Very easy to sign up.
So our golfers, help us support the Parkinson's organization by coming out on May the 4th to play golf and at the Smoke Rise Country Club, a really nice club here in Northeast Atlanta, Stone Mountain. I want to know, does Bill Pender still play?
He does not, but he's there at the event, and his wife is there, and his children as well. His son Sean and his wife Jenny are there, so they're out in full force. So
you have many people that have been participating in this since the beginning. You said 10 years ago.
10 years ago, we'll have approximately 120 golfers.
Wow!
We'll start at 10 o'clock. The shotguns start at 10 o'clock. And we're just hoping for the best weather possible. The greens are in great shape.
Right. Are you playing?
No, I'm not. I'm working behind the scenes. I've got a lot of things to do behind the scenes, and I wish I could, but there are many things to take care of. And as I said, we're all volunteers, so it's what we do the day of the event. For non-golfers, we can talk about that now or later, however you like, but we do have some other opportunities for people who do not play golf.
Great. We're going to talk about that. Well, sounds like a fun event for a great cause on May the 4th at Smoke Rise Country Club. I hope to see you golfers there. Okay, so what are some of the other fundraisers you've got coming up?
We have a very fun event coming up this Sunday, March 29th.
Wow.
Agatha's has agreed to is doing a benefit for the APDA Georgia chapter, and they will do one of their shows and one of their dinner shows. Tickets, again, are available through our website, apdageorgia.org. $65 per person, and all profits will go to the Georgia chapter of the APDA.
So all proceeds, they're...
All profits.
Okay.
All profits of the event will go to our organization. It'll be a fun night. If you've ever been to Agatha's, I can guarantee you'll have a great time.
Wonderful. We're going to take a break now. We'll be right back on Better Living at News Talk 1160.
Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey.
Well, welcome back to Better Living on News Talk 1160, and we are here with Eric Burkard. He is the volunteer president of the Georgia chapter of the American Parkinson Disease Association. So hope you're staying tuned. We've been having some good conversation on our break, and we want to share some of those things with you. We're going to finish off with some of the fundraisers, though. We want to talk about that so that you know what's going on, so you can help support this cause. And then we'll get into some other information for you. So we've got Agatha's. Is that?
Agatha's this Sunday, March 29th,
and they can
from
still
6
get,
p.m.
March 29th, 6 p.m., and they can still get tickets?
Can still buy tickets on our website.
Wonderful. That sounds like a fun event. How many people do you expect?
We hope to get over 100 people. That's close to capacity at Agatha's.
And Agatha's is
downtown on Peachtree.
Okay.
And why are we doing this on a Sunday? Because Sunday is an easy day, traffic-wise, and a lot of people have some free time, believe it or not, on a Sunday night. It just turns out to be a really great time for us.
I think you're right on that, because traffic in Atlanta is a bear.
Very easy.
So a Sunday, it's a little better. And what else have you got going on this year?
We always have a big sort of gala-style fundraiser at the end of the year, and this will be in October. We are still looking at dates at this point, but it'll be sometime in mid-October. And this is usually our biggest fundraiser of the year, where everyone can get involved. It'll be a central location. It'll be a semi-formal, kind of formal night with the usual silent auction and so forth. And we may have a couple new things this year. But talking about fundraisers in general, we will do two main things. We'll do a golf tournament in the spring. We'll do our major fundraiser in the fall. Next year, we're looking to do a walkathon for people who want to get out and walk and raise funds and awareness, of course. And then we'll do smaller things during the year, such as the Agatha's event, or we may do a wine tasting, just to keep people engaged, keep them busy. The one thing we really like to do, though, is encourage everyone to come out to our free educational meetings every month, every third Saturday of the month. And the next one will be April 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
And where are these located?
These are located in a very central location. Now that may sound good, but for a lot of people who aren't in the central, who aren't centrally located, it can be a bit of a drive, right? I happen to live in Alpharetta, but I'm down there every Saturday, every third Saturday of the month at Claremont Oaks on Claremont Drive, I believe it is, just a block or two from downtown Decatur. So it's at Claremont Oaks, and every third Saturday, we have an invited speaker, and that person can be a doctor, a clinician, researcher, someone intimately involved with the Parkinson's community to impart their knowledge, their advice, and so forth on Parkinson's. And a lot of people do not know about this. We're always trying to get the word out. It's a free event. We have sponsors that help pay for the breakfast for these events. So so we encourage people to come out for a couple reasons. Number one, it's a great educational event. It's a unique educational event. There's no other Parkinson's organization that I'm aware of that does these regular educational seminars. It's free, and there are some hidden benefits as well. We think that it's really good for people to get out of the house, to get moving, because movement helps people with movement disorders. As I mentioned earlier, the exercise is a great thing. And there's another benefit that we tend to forget, but it's just as important, and that's socialization.
Right.
So it gives people something to do and to meet some people, maybe in their own situation, and get out and meet some new people and socialize. That's so important today. So
this is not only for the families and caregivers, but it is also for our people that have Parkinson's.
It's absolutely available and free to the public. Okay. Anyone who has any interest whatsoever in Parkinson's. And we may have a speaker, for example, on Saturday, April 18th, for example, we have Nancy Kreisman coming. Now, Nancy is a social worker, a licensed clinical social worker who has written a book and has written a couple books, and she'll be talking to caregivers, and her talk will be The Mindful Caregiver. So this is all free, and we encourage people with Parkinson's and their families to attend the event. Free breakfast down at Claremont Oaks on Saturday, April 18th. We get started at 10:30, but we like everyone to be there at 10 o'clock just to get seated, have their breakfast, meet some new folks, and we're usually done at 11:30 or 12 o'clock.
Great.
So it's a nice Saturday event.
Right, not too early. Sleep in a little bit, and then you can still
free.
make it down there at 10 o'clock, and it's free, and it's good information. And I want to say, even if you don't have someone in your family or a close friend that has Parkinson's, it's probably some good information to have, because as we mature and age, we find out that there are more of these people in our lives that are affected by the different diseases out there, and you never know, and it's good to be aware. It's good to know what's going on, and maybe to recognize some of the symptoms so
Kimberly,
that you
yes.
could help direct them to a good doctor.
I'm so glad you said that, Kimberly, because it isn't, even though people who have Parkinson's or are affected by the disease are very focused and very just, I'll say, they're almost just passionately driven to understand and to this disease and find a cure and manage it and everything. But it's equally important to understand these other diseases, because on the research side, turns out that if there is that cure for Alzheimer's, for example, or some of these other diseases, it will most likely benefit the researchers who are doing Parkinson's research. So there is some crossover. Okay.
Well, and could you tell me a little more about that? And people with Parkinson's have Alzheimer's, or how is that related?
Well,
Give
there is
a little more detail there.
Yes, right. So there are cases of people who have Parkinson's and Alzheimer's at the same time, and although dementia really only affects half of the Parkinson's community that live long enough, there is a dementia aspect to it. It can be Alzheimer's, or it can be another form of dementia, such as Lewy body dementia. I won't get into all the specifics, but. But I think that it's important for people to understand that Parkinson's is not just the physical things that we see manifested in things like stiffness, rigidity, problems with gait and balance, and the typical tremors. A lot of those symptoms really don't surface until 4 or 5 years after the disease has kind of set in.
Wow.
So what researchers are trying to find today are folks who are, let's say, experiencing some of these early warning signs. Now, they may not be tremor, and they may not be the stiffness and rigidity that we associate with Parkinson's, but there are these what are called non-motor symptoms that researchers want to take a close look at and find people who may be experiencing things that aren't looking like Parkinson's. And I'll give you a good example. For many people with Parkinson's, they probably started experiencing some issues 4 or 5 years before, but never connected them with Parkinson's, the disease.
So what kind of issues are these?
So we're talking about non-motor symptoms, right? Things that aren't manifested in tremor and gait and so forth. So it turns out that a lot of Parkinson's, not all Parkinson's patients, lose their sense of smell from very early on.
Wow, I did not know that.
And another non-motor symptom is a sleep disorder. So there's a sleep disorder called REM sleep disorder, rapid eye movement disorder, where people act out their dreams, and it's called dream enactment.
Wow.
And it's usually a violent type of dream. So people are having these dreams, and they may punch their bed partner or beat on their bed partner.
So the first time that happens, you might want to go see a doctor and not just think they're mad at you.
Right. So if you and another non-motor symptom also is depression, and that turns out to be a very big part of the disease. Not just because people have Parkinson's, they're depressed, but a part of their disease. So. And then another non-motor symptom, which is actually a motor symptom, but it's an internal symptom that we don't see, of course, is like constipation and just intestinal problems, right? So any young person, and when I say young, we're talking about people maybe in their 40s or even earlier, or even into their 50s, who suddenly lose their sense of smell, are having some sleep disorder, such as
Right.
what I mentioned, the
Right.
sleep dream enactment.
And hitting your partner.
Right, maybe suffering from depression, mood, and anxiety, and then maybe some constipation. That person definitely needs to see a neurologist, and not just any neurologist, but that movement disorder specialist. We're
Right.
always encouraging folks to see.
Right, and I want you to emphasize that, not just any neurologist, because I have seen that happen where someone will go and, oh, you don't have Parkinson's, or I ran a CAT scan, you don't have Parkinson's. That's not how to determine if you have Parkinson's, generally.
Right, and unfortunately, it can only be diagnosed by an experienced clinician. There is no biomarker. Researchers are looking for those biomarkers, but there is no test that can be done, no lab test that will definitely show you that you have Parkinson's. It all has to be done by that movement disorder specialist. So the important thing is when people get the disease, we try to encourage them to participate in the trials. Now, that's difficult for a lot of people with the disease.
So are there any trials coming up?
There are always trials out there, but who knows about them, right? So here's an interesting situation where I'll really kind of illustrate how we work with some of the other Parkinson's organizations.
Okay.
The largest organization out there that does work for the Parkinson's communities is the Michael J. Fox organization, but they are almost entirely an organization that funds research, but they have put together a trial finder. So if you're looking for trials, whether it's a university and so forth, anywhere around the country, you can go to the Michael J. Fox Trial Finder. And I think it's called, well, you would have to Google it, I suppose, but I don't have the exact address, but just type in Trial Finder Michael J. Fox, and you will find this link that will show you all the trials going on. Some you may qualify for, you may not qualify for, but there's always a way for people to get involved, and that really does help the effort.
Wow, that's great. Yes. So that's good information. So that's part of the research going on, or the trials that feed that. What other information can you give us specific to the disease, or that's not common knowledge? What is it? I love the fact that you mentioned those things that start 4 or 5 years that are internal before we see those tremors and we see that movement disorder. That's great information, and I'm hoping everyone heard that and listened to that. Is that information on your website also?
It is. We tend not to get too involved in all the symptoms. We have a lot of resources to help people understand the disease and so forth. But again, we are a fundraising organization. We're trying to help people with the disease and the researchers as well, because frankly, a good part of our funds go to research. But mostly, well, I'll tell you one interesting thing about the disease that I learned is that even though we associate Parkinson's with this tremor, and it's an at-rest tremor, it's not a movement-associated tremor, but it's an at-rest tremor. So people who have their hands on a table at rest, that they will tremor. It turns out that about maybe a quarter of the people who have Parkinson's do not exhibit that tremor.
Wow.
Okay? So Parkinson's is not always associated with tremor. It does tend to affect people at a later age, at an older age, people above 60, but we're seeing more and more younger people affected by the disease. And the question I always get is, well, gee, what causes Parkinson's? Is it genetic? Is it something else? And it turns out that if it's pure genetics, it seems like there are very few cases that can be identified as genetically passed on. But it seems to be, and this is where the research is.
That's good to know.
Well, it is, but where the research is headed today is researchers are looking at what are those toxins in our environment, and there are many that are helping to accelerate or trigger the disease because of a gene mutation or a gene susceptibility to that disease.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
that makes a lot of sense. That and stress.
Probably. It doesn't. That's a good point, too, because often we see people who have been sort of pushed over the edge due to a high-stress situation, death in the family or something, just that really affected them and then helped those symptoms become more visible. They had probably had the disease but didn't realize anything, and sometimes we see people that in those high-stress situations bring out those symptoms, right?
Right.
So researchers are looking at what are those environmental toxins, what are those things that are changing or making people susceptible to the disease.
Have they made any determinations?
Well,
is it still in the early stages?
There's a lot of research going on right now, and my hope is that we'll be close to some major breakthroughs soon, and the major breakthrough may be something as simple as maybe stopping or halting the progression. We don't even have anything to halt the progression at this point.
Wow. But you did mention there are some surgeries now. There are medications that can slow down the progression, slow it, correct?
Neurologists will tell their patients, if you're going to get a neurodegenerative disease, Parkinson's is probably the one you want to get. Now, that may not sound great, but there are many ways to treat the disease. Medicine. We're looking at some non-medicinal treatments. For, exercise, for example, we're seeing that that's very important. And then there's surgery. And the surgery, the most well-known surgery, and it's not for everyone, is called deep brain stimulation. And they do those procedures down here at Emory.
Good to know.
And this works for some Parkinson's patients to control, really to mitigate the symptoms. So at this point, doctors are still treating the symptoms. And it's all about symptom management. And the earlier the symptoms are treated, the better the outcome.
So the surgery, is that generally for someone that's been diagnosed early on? Or have you seen it work across the board? Early, late?
It only applies to a small group of
okay.
Persons with Parkinson's,
okay.
and that's still evolving. It's been around for a while, but I think it's still evolving, and it can be a great solution for some people, but not for others. It really depends on everyone's situation, and what I've seen is that Parkinson's seems to affect everyone a little differently. There is no classic disease. It is. In fact, researchers like to say that it is a collection of diseases.
Wow, a collection of diseases. That's interesting. And something else, as a caregiver of someone with Parkinson's, and again, we had mentioned this before, it is exhausting, it's time-consuming. Now, what we see are many people in their 50s maybe with parents that have Parkinson's and other diseases, and then they're out working still, and they can't be at home all day. So maybe they find an adult daycare center, and then maybe the parent gets to a place where they're almost bedbound, and the child feels like they can no longer really give that care. They're exhausted. They're trying to work a full-time job. They may still have kids at home or in college, but they're needing that support. And so I also want to say there are assisted livings and facilities out there that that are great for people with Parkinson's and other diagnoses that specialize in memory care.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to encourage you to look into those if you're a caregiver. Back in our day, or you may hear people saying, "Oh, I'm not going to put mama away," or "I'm not going to." It's so different today. It's not putting someone away. Many times they have so many activities. It's a new community, and I want to encourage you to find a community that they would be happy in, because if you're young and you still have life in you, think about that for you and your health, because as Eric mentioned, many times we see the caregivers die before the patient because they are exhausted. And I just want to encourage you to get all the support, whether it's an assisted living or going to an exercise class or going Saturday to this educational seminar at Claremont Oaks at 10 o'clock. I want to encourage you to be active in getting that information. So, one last question. We're getting to the end of our time. So, you do these fundraisers that go to help support your education and resources and research. So, do you know about how much you guys send up to New York for the national organization?
That's a fair question, and that really changes depending on what we need to accomplish for the year and where we're headed as an organization. But I want to let everyone know that as a 501c3, if you go to our national website, which is called apdaparkinson.org, you will find the financials. And just as a word of caution for anyone considering donating to any organization, make sure that the financials are transparent and available to the public. Because if that organization does not offer them, there's something amiss. So our financials are open to the public. Again, we're the Georgia chapter, so we report to our national office, but all of that information is available.
Great. So what's your goal this year?
Well, our goal is to help more people this year than last year.
That's wonderful.
But to do that, we need to raise more money than last year.
So do you have a financial goal?
Well, we do. We're really looking right now for from a financial goal, from a standpoint, I'll tell you that from our golf tournament, we'd like to raise at least $40,000, and same for our gala at the end of the year, another $40,000 or $50,000, and that's a good amount. We can offer a lot of help to people here locally and support our research efforts with that amount of money. And we do have expenses, of course, as all organizations do. But we try to be as efficient as possible.
Great. Thank you, Eric Burkard with the American Parkinson Disease Association, for being here at Better Living on News Talk 1160 and giving us a wealth of information about the Parkinson disease.
I'm Jeannie Pete. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day and week ahead, and listen here same time next week and every week. Homestead Hope Foundation is your resource for a healthy life. God bless.